Colossians chapter 1 verses 15 through 20. All things are created through him and for him. Christ Jesus is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of all creation. For in him were created all things in heaven and on earth, the visible and the invisible, whether thrones or dominions or principalities or powers, all things were created through him and for him. He is before all things, and in him all things hold together. He is the head of the body, the church. He is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, that in all things he himself might be preeminent. For in him all the fullness was pleased to dwell, and through him to reconcile all things for him, making peace by the blood of his cross through him, whether those on earth or those in heaven. The Colossian church had a number of misconceptions about Christ. False teachers told the people that God wouldn't have lowered himself to come to earth as a true human being. Paul says, if that were true, how is it that he died an earthly death on the cross? False teachers told them, if God had created the world, why are we faced with evil? Paul tells them that if God allowed evil in the world, why is it he also created heaven without evil? They claimed that Christ was not the Son of God, but that he was one of the many prophets or intermediaries between God and man. Paul's response was that Christ existed before anything else and was the first resurrected from the dead. The letter to the Colossians is sometimes referred to as a prison letter. Paul was in prison in Rome when he wrote the letter, but his prison is unlike what you might expect. He was being held in a house, not a cell. He was under heavy guard, and it is believed that he was chained to one of the guards. Paul was also allowed to do certain things not allowed to other prisoners, such as writing letters and having visits from anyone he liked. Verses 15 to 16, he is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of all creation, for in him all things were created, in heaven and on earth, and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or principalities or authorities, all things were created through him and for him. These verses confirm Christ's divinity and authority over all creation, because it was through him all things were made, and the Maker has authority over all he has made, and decides to sustain or maintain the creation over time. Verse 19 and 20, for in him all the fullness of God was pleased to dwell, and through him to reconcile to himself all things, whether on earth or in heaven, making peace by the blood of his cross. Verse 19 means, Christ is divine because he has the completeness or fullness of the divine life, holiness, and power. Father. Verse 20 means, Jesus reconciled us. The Greek words that explain reconcile means to exchange or to change. Romans chapter 5 verses 6 to 11, tell us that before reconciliation we were helpless, sinners and enemies of God and subjected to his wrath, but now because of reconciliation we are attempting to exchange, or change sinful ways for righteous, or heavenly ways. Proverbs 10 tells us what changes we should be making on our journey toward our heavenly reward. Here are but two examples of Proverbs 11 verse 2. When pride comes, then comes disgrace, but with the humble is wisdom. The integrity of the upright guides them, but the crookedness of the treacherous destroys them. Proverbs 10 verse 29, the Lord is a stronghold to those who walk honestly, but the downfall for evildoers.